Flatbush Community Partnership. Appreciate you for joining us today for our monthly meeting for the month of September. Those of you who are new to the partnership, just want to share a little bit about who we are and what we do. We are one of 11 partnerships funded by ACS as part of their primary prevention strategy. And they are, I like to think of us as hubs, right? We're the location where when residents are in need of services, they can come to us because we have a large network of service providers that we can connect them with. And then we also do a lot of community events, which you're going to learn more about as we continue with our time together today. So as I stated before, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We would love for you guys to, connect in the chat, get to know each other. Every session is being recorded, so you're going to receive this video via email. You're also going to receive the chat box via email, and any presentations that are shared during our meeting, you're going to receive those as well. Okay, so we are going to get started. Please take attendance. Again, the chat should have that link for you to do that, and I'm going to be reminding you throughout the time so that you guys can make sure that you are accounted for in our meeting today. All right, Cindy, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So for today's agenda, we have our welcome, which I just did, welcome again. We're going to have our East Flatbush Community Partnership updates. We're going to have two presenters today. The first one, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, Christiasia Daniels from the Public Health Solutions, and Paul Rubia. Why did I say Paul? My goodness. Raul Rubio. Okay, thank you. From the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And then we're going to have our program updates as well as closing remarks. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to, no, it is Melissa. Melissa is going to do our program updates. And Melissa, just so in case you guys don't know, Melissa is one of our newest community ambassadors. All right, Melissa.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, echo. So our weekly newsletter, if Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. So yes, our weekly newsletter. So if anyone on the call right now has an event or flyer or anything that is going to be any resources you have for the community, you can send it to this email, which is reid, R-E-I-D-C for Sydney at jccany.org. You can actually have that in the newsletter, and we send that to all the residents that are on our list, right? Also, our monthly meeting, if you're interested in being a presenter, talk about basically your organization, your business, or what your nonprofit does, there is a monthly meeting presenter form that can be found in the chat, right? And also, there's an in-person attendance. So just like Lameka said, if you're here today, please just scan the QR code just to make sure we have an account for everyone who's here attending the meeting today, right? Next slide. So you can check us out at our East Flatbush Community Partnership website. Everything that you need to know about the organization, basically the events, resources for the residents, different service providers, and also volunteers or volunteering. And also if you want to donate to the organization and to the cause as well, that's right here on our website, which is eastflatbushpartnership.org. Monthly meeting. So we have our general monthly meeting. That's every fourth Thursday of the month, which is now between 3 to 5 p.m., right? So it's actually a hybrid. So we have people that are here in the actual space with us. So we're at My Time Inc., which is at 640 Parkside Avenue, right? So we would love to see you in person, but if not, you could also log on in Zoom like a lot of you guys are right now. So every fourth Thursday. And our virtual open door meeting is every second Thursday of each month at 7 p.m., right? So we talk about local resources, there's learning opportunities, there's community networking. If you're interested and just want to put it in your calendar, the QR code is right there at the bottom left of the screen, and you can make a note of that. That is going to be every second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. So that's my part.
Thank you. Okay, one second. Okay, so Cindy is going to share our program updates now.
Thanks, Micah. Hi, everyone, Cindy Reed here. Thank you. So past event was family game night. It was really successful. This night just provided the community an opportunity to come together as family to play games, food, drinks. They really enjoyed it. Also, with a great display, variety of games, rewards too, such as medals for those who won and free prizes to children and families. So it was really great. That was in collaboration with Black Women's Farm Church. Also as Christopher Rose Community Encouragement campaign, and also Path Forward. So for upcoming events, we want to share our annual What's Next for Hearst Women's Summit. This event consists of powerful speakers, workshops, also pop-up shop for female business owners in the space. It's a powerful event just encouraging women on looking what's that next step for them. So we hope for you to share this with your families, your network in general, and welcome any women in the room. Men can attend too. They have done so, but we're just event for women. It's happening on October 4th at the Top Civic Center. Can't see the address, I believe it's 1098 Utica Avenue. That's great. Awesome, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's a great day of giveaways, of a lot of powerful speakers. So come on out, share it too. Another thing, this is new that we are starting and hoping to do quarterly. The Connect meeting will be a meeting that is purposely set to connect school personnel and service providers. We're providing an opportunity for them to collaborate, learn about each other's needs and resources that are available. So our first one is coming up October 15th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So we would love to invite all of you to come out because this will be only in person. There will be no virtual option. So come out. School personnel will be in the room, other resource providers will be in the room. I believe our main topic for this one will be employment. We have a variety of employment service providers lined up that day for that topic discussion. And the location, sorry, Rebecca, will be Flatbush Library, which is located at 22 Library, Linden Boulevard, sorry. And then lastly, we're in collaboration with Loving Kindness Women's Services, Mindset Inc., Real, which is an after-school program, and autism support. This meeting is basically going to be a workshop for families, really focusing on children though, for general ed children and special ed children to learn how to meld together and be in a room together. So that's what the workshop will be on. Ms. Denise from last time, you could explain it better than me, but this will be a workshop for the families and the children to engage together. That's going to be on November 1st at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. located at Real after school location, which is 1805 Ocean Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And just as a reminder, if you have not already, please introduce yourself in the chat. If you are a resident, let us know. And if you're a service provider, let us know that as well. I'm going to pass it over to Edlin. She's going to present our first presenter for today.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. So once again, our weekly meeting, September. So we will be starting off with our first presenter. Will be a junior. He is from the Office of Community Engagement and Training, Operations Coordinator, Division of Mental Hygiene, and Varsity Department of Health. Please give it up for Raul.
Can everyone hear Raul? No one's saying they can't hear you, so.
I could hear you, but I can't hear him.
Breaking up.
Yeah.
They said they can't hear you. You wanna, come over here? Yeah. And let me get your presentation, 1 second. Okay. All right, so.
Okay, everybody, can you hear me now?
1 second.
Yes, this is George. I could hear you.
Good.
Awesome, perfect, thank you.
Okay, I wanna get your presentation up for the
No problem.
crowd.
Well, good afternoon. While they're getting my visuals up, quick introduction again. I'm Raul Rubio. I'm with the Department of Mental Health and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. I'm kind of here to talk about one of our grant run programs that we've got going on. And it's an extension of a program that we've had running for about 3 to 4 years now. So recently we had gotten some money from SAMHSA. So some federal money to be able to expand one of our other programs, which is called BRY, which is Building Resiliency in Youth. If you've worked for the city or have dealt with the city, I'm going to be throwing a lot of acronyms your way. So I'm going to try to spell them out because, as social workers, we get used to talking in 3-4 letter words, and then we kind of forget what they mean to some of the people who don't do the same kind of stuff. So again, BRY is a program that deals specifically with youth who need supportive services. Now, we are working on what's called the Partnership for Early Diversion in Youth, or PEDY. The Partnership for Early Diversion for Youth is built on the premise of working with basically youth from 13 to 21 who may have or may not have mental health issues, a co-occurring condition, which could be a substance abuse, a more severe mental health issue, a developmental delay, as well as potentially be in crisis or at risk for incarceration. Let me just move this to the next slide. It didn't work for me. So again, our mission is to be able to work with youth through supportive services. So by that means, we've partnered with a couple of people, a couple of agencies in the community who are helping us do that. We have local partners as well as guidance partners and referral partners. Hopefully, we extend our circle of referral partners to kind of work with all of you. In the last couple of months, I actually used to work with the Bushwick Community Partnership. So when I started doing planning for our community outreach, I wanted to make sure that we connected to all of the community partnerships that are going on. We currently are in 5 different communities in Brooklyn. So we cover Bushwick, Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, East New York, and East Flatbush. Most of our partners have a really solid foothold in Bushwick and East New York, even in Brownsville, particularly some of the names that you've heard. Earlier mentioned was CRCEC, the Charlie Rose, Community Empowerment Campaign, as well as Riseboro. We're also working with CCA, who's also located in East New York, and BAC, which is Building Access. Building Access, dude. I always forget what these, once I start looking at
Bridging
acronyms.
access to care.
There you go, that's the one. Good Lord. Yeah, again, like I said, we toss around acronyms so easily. All right. So originally how this thing worked was that normally most of our partners work in the Bridging Access for Building Resiliency and Youth, that BRY. We developed the PEDY the Partnership for the Early Diversion for youth that are that have a little bit more severe issues when it comes to mental health. Although they don't need to have a mental health, an actual diagnosable mental health concern, but part of it is to try to like work on some of the stigma that's surrounding that, so that if there is a mental health issue, that we can identify it, possibly encourage an assessment for that, and then a connection to services, either with a mental health provider or through some of our partners into like shared tasks where we can develop some supportive services that to work with some of those youth. We're particularly looking to try to work in what's called Intercept Zero, as well as increase system collaboration and honestly, reduce the number of kids that enter the juvenile justice system. So let's talk a little bit about our partners. Cool. So as you can see, when I talk about our community-based partners, we're talking about Riseboro, we're talking about Christopher Rose. Those are the ones that primarily do our on-the-ground work. So if you wanted to refer one of your youth or a youth that you know or a family that may be like at this point starting to struggle with a situation where, again, we are trying to do very, very preventive work, which is a little different than most of the programs that work around diversion. Because as most of you know, we kind of like work in a crisis-based field where something happens, there's a situation, a triggering incident, and then the authorities get involved. If it's either, it could be ACS, it may be like, law enforcement, it could be family court, it could be through a PINS petition, an altercation at school that then triggers something that goes on, because most schools now follow a zero tolerance policy. So these are situations that would normally cause a child who may be dealing with like certain kind of like crisis or issues to fall into the system. Again, like I mentioned before, we're trying to hit what's called an Intercept Zero, which means we try to get involved before that child is known to a law enforcement official, before he's been arrested, and before he enters into the court system. It's a very, very specific niche that we're trying to hit. So we're looking to try to find partners who can get us into those particular grooves, which means to get in touch with the school-based support teams who may know and identify a kid who is starting to straggle off into a different path that may eventually lead him down into a crisis or involvement in the criminal justice system. The same thing with a parent who might be might be running out of options and doesn't know exactly what to do or what to say. This could also mean, again, a kid who may already be receiving services, either through therapeutic services, through a mental health clinic, after school program, tutoring program, could be in a little league or a sports team. But again, the adult caregiver that is working with them, giving them the supportive service, can see that this kid may be going through something that they aren't equipped to handle. Because specifically, their services are to give mental health or to give coaching and guidance. But when it comes to dealing with maybe some of the aspects of a child's life where they may have a history of mental health, they may have a history of bullying or peer pressure, or just sometimes hanging around with the wrong crowd, or the other influences that, like right now, are sometimes pretty overwhelming. As most of you understand and who've worked with kids, most of our kids now socialize a lot differently than maybe some of you did when you were younger. There's a lot more emphasis on what social media says and what other peers say. I know when I was growing up, we didn't have social media. So I can't imagine, particularly when someone's being cyberbullied. It's like, that's what friends are for. You delete them, you unfriend them. There's enough people out there that you should be able to connect with, but I don't swim in those waters, so I don't know what that is. And that's a much harder pull now because our kids socialize a little bit differently. And so you have to kind of change your strategy for the situations. So that's what we're trying to do, those particular things. So again, like I said, our community partners are Riseboro and Christopher Rose. Our managing partners, our clinical partners are BAC. They're the ones that kind of review the referrals that come through and see where a child falls in the spectrum. If, it is not as severe enough that they need our diversion program, then we can move them into the BRY, the Building Resiliency in Youth, and they can receive services there. And if at any point it starts to look like there may be a crisis forming, then we can bump them up to the PEDY. And again, we have a coordinating partner who kind of like supervising all of that, and that would be CCA, Center for Community Alternatives. They're also located in East New York and have an after-school program and a bunch of different other programs that they connect with. Currently, like I said, we've connected with the community partnerships in the 4 areas that they're in, which is East New York, East Flatbush, Bushwick, and Bed-Stuy. We're also connecting with the family engagement centers. Because obviously the family enrichment centers, the FACs, because they're also in those neighborhoods as well as in Brownsville. So we're trying to do our best way to saturate all of those particular areas and getting the word out. Again, the only way that I guess we get to be able to help is if people know that we're here, particularly since we are in that like in between area where we're trying to get to kids before they become incarcerated. The reason is that as evidence shows, a child who goes through the system is traumatized.
Yeah.
There is no way that they don't go through the system and don't get some sort of, hopefully not to the point where it lasts so it's a PTSD and follows them for a while. But it can, and depending on the experience that they have while they're in the system, there can be many different degrees of trauma. The second part of what we're trying to do here, because we have another goal, which is, I think we're about, it's hard to see when I don't have to see it, but the other part of what we're trying to do is to train law enforcement professionals about understanding about youth. The flyer you're looking at right now is kind of like, it talks a little bit about the client journey. And I've been talking about that. The first encounter would be somebody coming and speaking with the family, kind of just doing an initial assessment, talking with the child, talking with the family, trying to get an idea of what's going on. We do a screening. At that point, we kind of like look to see if, hey, maybe there needs to be a further assessment. And then that's when one of our larger partner like BAC would come and get involved and, kind of follow up on the assessment. That's at a second encounter where they have a little bit more of a conversation, they check eligibility, they have a discussion about what actually some of the needs that the youth has, so that we're not just using a cookie cutter type approach that every kid needs to be in this program, because some kids don't. But the idea is that we want to be able to do a pretty decent assessment. We gauge them on the ACEs scale. So it's not, again, just about mental health, but the stresses in the life of the child and the stresses in the life of the family, because you can't service one without the other. It's a group thing. And sometimes that means us referring out to other programs, maybe an FAC program, who'll come in and do 6 weeks intensive work with the mom, dad, and the child and get them working on their communication before we can connect them to one of our other partners to be able to do some of that extra work. As I mentioned before, eligibility, we're talking about kids from 13 to 21. So one of the bigger things that we're always dealing with is consent. So if a child is over 18, then we don't really need the parents' consent to be able to get into the program. If they're under 18, then obviously we do. And so sometimes that can be a little bit of a hill, depending on the kind of relationship that we have with the family. Again, when we see them, it's usually the first time. So we might have to depend a little heavily on the people making the referral, so that there's a warm handoff, that they're not just blindly being sent to somebody, that there is that level of communication. So there's a little bit of an understanding that, hey, we're trying to move you into a program. And that only happens if you guys know who we are. And that's part of one of the reasons why I'm here, to kind of put a face on this new thing. We've been doing this technically at this point. We're finishing our second year. And it took us a lot to get us ramped up, to line up our partners, to kind of because literally we had to kind of develop our system from the ground up. And we've been taking referrals now for this last year. And we're trying to ramp up so that we can, reach our total number of referrals. as well as community contacts, increasing our range in partnerships, so that, again, we're creating maybe, I don't know what you could call it as far as an informal wraparound service, so that as we run into youth that need different types of services, that we can connect to different types of services out there, so that in the long run, we can achieve what we're trying to do, which is ultimately trying to stop kids from falling into the gaps that lead them into the criminal justice system. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here we talk about like our contacts. All right. Before I get to this, let me tell you the other part of what we were trying to do, and is connect to law enforcement. So along with the charge that we've been given by SAMHSA to reach these children, provide these services, connect families to those resources, the other part was to try to be able to work with changing the environment a little bit. So at this point, we've created a guide training, which is a 4-hour training that we're doing now. The idea is to train 3,000 people and we're talking about people that work with children, law enforcement. So we're talking about police, we're talking about school safety officers, including lawyers, prosecutors through the DA's office. So, and some of the connections that we've made, we're currently going to be doing a program. We're going to be doing a small program and starting with some of the officers from the 83rd precinct. So I've met with the deputy inspector there, and he's committed to sending a group of his officers. So we're in the planning stages right now of doing our guide training for some of his officers, pretty much to get some feedback from them. So at this point, we're doing the community affairs officers. We're talking about the youth officers, possibly some of the NCO, the neighborhood community officers, who 83rd precinct, which is Bushwick. We're starting there. Hopefully, we're as we develop our connections in some of our other communities, from the way it looks to mapping it out, the 90th precinct will probably be the next one. Then we'll go to the 75th precinct, and then include the precincts in East Flatbush and Brownsville. So, which again, I may, tap Cindy to talk to you guys about helping us, because I know how the community networks work. There's probably some of you that have worked with your local precincts before, who've had connections and services, maybe through the clergy council, maybe through the public safety committee, the community board. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I understand how networking works. I understand how creating partnerships work. And I know that is usually the best and most effective way to be able to reach people and get your message out there. And again, this is an opportunity for you guys to also work with, the Department of Health, because part of what I do is try to get them to understand what's happening on the community level. Because a lot of times the city agencies, we don't do that. We come up with mandates and decisions and this is what we need to bring to the community. This is what the community needs. I've done community work. I know that's ass backwards. You should always go to the community first. Let them know what you're trying to do, figure out what their needs are, and then figure out a way so that it matches, so that you come in already with this on people's radars, an understanding this is we're trying to do this kind of work and we want people to help us do it. And that the help that we get, the involvement of the community helps shape our programs better. And that's where we are. So like I said, that's one of the reasons why we want to start doing this with the police, because if we're not police officers. I'm not a police officer. I can only imagine how they think. So when we put together a program or a workshop or a training, it's through the eyes of, a community social worker, which is great. But then again, how am I going to influence police officers if I don't try to create the program so that it fits, using the same language that they talk about, understanding the scenarios that they deal with? Because honestly, the part of our training is to try to work with officers who have already been trained to deal with situations a certain way and to look at situations a little bit differently. I want them to be able to look at a kid and not see a troubled youth, but a youth in trouble. to see a child as an opportunity to be able to redirect them and not just kind of like hope and pray that they don't end up in the system. And not for nothing, I've worked with officers before, and I know that some of them have been in the same situation where they've come to me to talk to me about particular kids that they're working with or that they've seen and that they continue to run into. Haven't been arrested yet, but they know it's like it's coming if they don't do something to change their right. And they've tried. And that's one of the reasons I was able to get in really good with the deputy inspector over at the 83rd Precinct, because I worked with him when he was a captain and a lieutenant with youth in Bushwick in particular. He would show up to the chat and choose. He would organize the football team, the football games with the officers, and the weekly games at the rec center with the officers and the local basketball team that the kids would put together. Because those are how you make effective change. That's how you create relationships, by getting in there and being face to face and having those conversations. Again, I would have preferred that we'd be talking face to face. It feels a lot more comfortable because I don't even know how many people I'm talking to right now. I just see a whole bunch of icons on the side. But again, the page that you're looking at right now is pretty much the information for all of our contact info. I've given my contact info to Cindy. You guys can reach out to me directly, as well as if you wanted to do trainings for you and your staff. So this is the other cell of what I do. I do work for the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. We are the office that coordinates. We had coordinated mental health first aid for like the last 7 years. We recently had to stop providing that because, again, contracts are what they are, finances are what they are. The city changed the shift. But at the same time, we haven't stopped doing trainings. So currently we're doing a community mental wellness and resiliency training, which is an in-person or virtual 3-hour training that we can do. We do it 6 days a week for any community in New York City. At the same time, we're also doing public mental health for Asian American, the Asian American population, which is something that came out of COVID. So we do, again, that to reduce stigma and try to improve like mental health and self-care. Also at the same time, if any of you are looking for a training for your staff, for the families that you work with, look, if you can get 15 people together, I'll come and train your book club on any mental health topic that you want for an hour to an hour and a half to 2 hours, whether it be depression, mental health, self-care, understanding depression. My office can do that. We have like 6 coordinators who organize trainings, again, 6 days a week. If you need something done in the evening, give us a little bit of leave time. We should be able to find somebody to cover that. And again, we do all topics. So there isn't a reason why you shouldn't be calling me for something. We are, like I said, we're here. We're doing our best to do the kind of work that we do. I've only recently started working for the city. All of my past experience, which probably goes somewhere in the ballpark of like 30 years, is all geared for working with families around mental health, supportive services, community building, community organizing. So I understand what it's like and what kind of needs, what you have to do to make it work. And I know sometimes it can be an isolated, like you're the only person doing it, or this is, I want to let you know that as a group, we can get more things done. And so I am offering that as my support and my knowledge and whatever we can do to come and again, provide services for your family. So if it's about psychoeducation, if it's about making referrals to stop kids from falling into the traps that lead them to the juvenile justice system, if it's working with kids who already have PINS petitions because they're on the brink of getting arrested, we will work with those kids. Again, although we are focused on these 5 communities, if a kid is outside of those communities, the families outside of those communities, and they're willing to travel to some of our partners, so if they're in Queens, but they happen to be in Ozone Park, right outside of East New York, and are willing to take that subway 5 or 6 stops to come in, we'll do that. We'll work with kids. We're actually partnering with agencies in the Bronx, like Beyond Boxing, because we know that it's not just going to be about mental health or services. Sometimes we're going to need recreational services. Sometimes we're going to need, I'm talking with people at St. Nick's Alliance, because sometimes a kid is not geared for college. They're going to need to get a career. So we need to also work on vocational training. We're trying to be as outside of the box as possible because that's where you sometimes have to be to deal with the families that we work with. New York is a big place, and it takes a city to raise a kid. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns. I hope I didn't put anybody to sleep.
That was great information. Feel free to unmute if you have any questions.
Yes, this is George Tate. My question is, because you mentioned that I love your presentation, but my question is that I think you mentioned that this program is only available in East New York. It's not available in East Flatbush yet. And the reason I'm asking is because I do volunteer with Christopher Rose Foundation and also with Bridging Access. And I know they have offices here in East Flatbush.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure that I understood you correctly.
To clarify, no, we are in those communities. When I said that we haven't branched out in there as much as we'd like to in the other communities, I know that the office of Christopher Rose that we deal with is East New York. I know that they do have an office in East Flatbush, and they actually have one of their workers over there does a lot of work with families there. But I know that like a lot of the referrals we've been coming from this side. And I know my connecting with the East Flatbush Partnership has been like the last of the 4 that we've done, and we definitely need to do more work there. But not to say we are open for business and we are accepting referrals from East Flatbush and all the other communities. If you wanted to be able to talk online and talk a little bit more about how we might be able to, to help us stretch into there, because again, as you said, all of our partners work in all of these communities. But like I said, I've spent more time with the partners from like Bushwick, Brownsville, East New York, and I need to spend more time branching out. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure I connected with the East Flatbush Partnership, why I wanted to be able to come to you guys. Also, again, to like spread our information to you as well. I'll probably be having I was having some issues with my printer, but I have flyers, electronic flyers that I've given. I'm going to give to Cindy so that she can, again, bounce those out to you guys. So if anybody does have families that they run into in all of those communities, like I said, even outside of those communities, if, the families are willing to travel. And, this is New York City, man. So like I said, we've worked with people who are in the Bronx who come down to our program. We have a partner, a mental health group in Jamaica who has kids in Jamaica who they referred and traveled to Bushwick for services. So again, even though we're in those geographic areas, it does not limit us to those areas. Again, we got to think outside the box. So Ms. Tate, I appreciate your question, and I hope I cleared that up for you.
Yes, because there are a couple of other organizations in East Flatbush that work with youth. Example, Elite Learners and East Flatbush Village. So I don't know if you have contacted them yet, or you would like to share information so I could pass it along with the Public Safety Committee at Community Board 17.
I would say yes to both of those. I'm actually on the community board in Community Board 4. But I'm also, because I'm working for a city agency, I've had to get permission to be able to reach out to other boards. I have to follow a certain, I'm gonna say it like this. I have to find a certain protocol because I'm with the city. You guys don't need to follow that protocol because you don't work for the city. So I like to do exactly what you are suggesting, which is having you help connect me to agencies that I have to wait to connect to on my own, which is one of the reasons why it's taken so long for me to connect with NYPD, even though, like I said, I clearly had a history with the deputy inspector. And literally my meeting, but like 5 minutes in, I got my confirmation to do what I needed to do. I just needed to get permission to be able to do it. And so I am leaning heavily on community partners who have these relationships already to help get me through the door. So yes, please, like I said, if maybe we need to have a conversation offline, I'm willing to do that with anybody who has any suggestions of agencies that we need to connect to. Honestly, one of the reasons why I connected directly with the community partnerships is because I had to wait to kind of connect directly to ACS. But I know that the community partnerships work outside of the realm of ACS. They're funded by ACS, but they're not dictated by the mandates that they require. And that's why they can do the freedom. They have the freedom to do the kind of work in the community that they do. So I know that that's one of the easiest ways. And that's one of the reasons why I'm able to sit and talk to you guys all at the same time. And why I appreciate these opportunities. A lot of times they don't have. Oh, okay, we got somebody.
MIPD community
Thank
coordinator.
you.
Any other questions?
I had one. Can you clarify, you say that the youth have not have a criminal history to be connected to your program?
Not so much not have a criminal history, not actively be under arrest. So if they've been arrested in the past and are, nothing came of it, or they were incarcerated, maybe in juvie or not in juvie right now, do not have an active court case for our funding through SAMHSA, that has to be like, that is one of their steadfast. Because the idea is they're trying to prevent, it's all prevention. So it's not about redirecting them out of the system, it's preventing them from falling further into it. So yeah, they could have been arrested in the past, but they just can't be actively arrested right now. In fact, we actually had a referral that while they were going through the referral process, the child got arrested. And then that disqualified us from continuing to work with them. At that point, there are other divergent programs through the district attorney's office that can help in that particular instance. Yeah, we're kind of in that narrow band of like, this is where they want us to be. So
that family that was engaged after you fixed from the services,
Yeah.
what is provided for them? How are they comparing two services if they still need services at that time?
kind of at that point, they're not involved in our program anymore. But that doesn't mean that they're no longer still working with the community partners that we're working with. At that point, it kind of dictates whether, if he is in the system, then it makes it really difficult. I've worked for a diversion program before, and usually when a kid is in, either if he's in a detention center or if he's actually, going through booking, it makes it really hard for any community organization to be able to work with him, because at that point, he is property of the city. And to get him to get to a program requires a huge, where he needs to be escorted by an actual officer. There's usually a van to transport him. He's usually knocked out of whatever services that he's in. At that point, again, it would probably be up to like the internal system of either the district attorney's office, or if one of the programs that was in that can kind of help direct him to a diversion program. But a lot of that won't happen until, honestly, the kid goes to court and there's a determination. Because at that point, then the court releases control. So the idea is, while he's in the system, hopefully somebody's advocating for either a conditional discharge, which means that he is released with a partial type of probation, so that as long as he doesn't get in trouble within a year, his record's expunged, and he complies with whatever services he gets. The other caveat about the stuff that we do is that it can't be mandated. That's the other reason why we have to kind of engage when they're not arrested. Because if he's mandated into services, then he doesn't qualify for what SAMHSA is trying to do. And so like I said, it's a really thin bandwidth. But it's a thin bandwidth for anybody when a child gets involved in the criminal justice system. That's one of the reasons why we're trying to stop it from getting to that point. Because at that point, you're kind of hands off and you have to kind of let them run through the system. It's a sad way to go, because a lot of times some of these youth aren't prepared for it. They aren't hardened criminals, and the way things are nowadays, they can be pretty sensitive when it comes to, we all see the stuff in the news. There's an 8-year-old to be arrested, and because he threw a pencil and hit somebody in the head, and there's a zero violence policy. School safety officer called the NYPD. The NYPD has to take him handcuffs to the station. It all ends up on the news. He's processed and released because they don't make a big thing of it. But at that point, you still have to kind of go through the process. And those things are hard to wipe away. So the whole thing is about trying to reduce the trauma. And the thing is that trauma is usually one of the reasons why some of these kids make those choices. So to pile more on is counterproductive to, to creating a more well-rounded system.
Sure, thank you for that. I'm not sure if you mentioned it or maybe I missed it. Is there any limitation or undocumented or documented youth?
No, it has nothing to do. At this point, it's pretty much a youth, the youth, no arrest, at risk. And again, the at risk is also very flexible. There isn't any really specific mandate that he had to have been pre-arrested or he's been, accused of anything or anything, or the amount of stressors that maybe that the child is dealing with. All of that comes through when we do the assessment. And then we kind of determine where he falls on the curriculum, on the spectrum. And whether he can be funneled through our BRY program, which again is, like I said, the less severe of the two, or he needs a little bit more services, probably needs a mental health assessment. And then that's when, BAC will do the more of the, all right, well, he qualifies for a more intensive program, and then we try to funnel him into that.
That's my last question.
Cool.
There's not a lot of services for you, right? And with your services, how do you determine that a youth is at risk and that it's not at risk, that a family just like, I'm putting them there and do this? Because that just keeps them out of that system.
Okay. Well, because there's a general scale. I think if you looked at one of the slides, it talks about like when they do the assessment, we look at ACEs to see where they fall in line of stresses. We look to see if those stresses are enough to be able to say that, well, all right, this kid is at risk. And then that's how we determine it. So it's not like he's like, oh, he doesn't want to do his homework or listen. I tell him to be here at 9, he shows up at 9:30. And they look at the stresses of life. And if it really doesn't show like it's that severe a situation, excuse me, then there are probably other programs that we can refer to. And that's why I like to try to create a large group of people that we know, so that if a kid doesn't fall into one of our slots, that we can get him involved. And like I said, get him involved in like an FAC program, who also works with kids in kind of like a crisis, but also short term, just to be able to deal with whatever the crisis. And if at that point it's something about a communication problem, that's ironically exactly what they're set out to do. Their whole basis is to try to get the family, the parents, and the kids on the same level, communicating better, so that they kind of iron out their differences and can move forward more effectively. And that's why I want to get them in the fold, because I want to be able to use them either as a refer in for our kids that may not be that severe, or a refer out for them when they've done the initial work, but they realize that there's still some kind of situations there. Because again, they're also preventive, but they're preventive about trying to prevent a call to going to ACS. So if they're then the communication and the 6 weeks are up, but they still see that there is some lingering issues that may cause them, I want them to be able to refer that case to us so that we can do an assessment and see if there's anything that we can do to prevent, again, a PINS petition, which, ironically is supposed to lead to an arrest. That's the only reason why you put a kid on a PINS petition, so that when you do call the cops are going to be like, well, he's your son, this, that, the other. Like, no, I've had enough trouble. And they realize that, all right, well, now we have to arrest him. Again, 100% is to try to divert that first arrest or second arrest or any arrest, just keep him out of the system.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question.
Okay, cool.
Aziz, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Good
Go ahead.
I jumped in late, so I think I missed a portion of the presentation. But I wanted to ask, so I'm the director for the Schools and Community Programs for KAVI, the Kings Against Violence Initiative. And so we provide a court advocacy program directly for our high school and middle school students, and was wondering if there was room for us to, or if there's room for you to support us in supporting our young folks who are court involved. And then as we get them maybe away from some of the court proceedings before they get locked up, is this a program that we can collaborate on to get them involved with? I guess that was kind of like my initial thinking, maybe not fully framed and flushed out.
Okay. So just to clarify, these are kids that are already currently have already been arrested and are possibly either getting deeper into the system or working their way out.
Correct.
Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I want to sure I heard the question. Well, first, good afternoon. Yes. Yes, my name is Ross Minnie. Yes, I know. Yes. Right here.
Yep.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Yes, hey, and good afternoon. Yes, my name is Ross Minnie. I'm the director for Partnership for Early Diversion of Youth. Here to answer your questions, right, and support Rob as well. I just want to be sure that I got your question correct. Like, are you saying these are youth that were already arrested, but they yeah. So at what stage in the process are they just are the young people that you're discussing, and just exactly how could we potentially be of help? I just want to be sure that I got it.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess for clarity, so these are both youth who've been arrested. These are kids who also have not been arrested that we are trying to get them, we're trying to get them to turn themselves in. And so some of them already have court proceedings, some of them don't. But the objective is for them to be put into programs that would be alternatives to incarceration. So again, as we're moving to get them out of their court proceedings, we're looking for other avenues to get them engaged, right? So kind of like redirect them, right? And so as I was listening to a portion of this presentation, I thought this would present a great opportunity to maybe then transfer our kids that we've maybe moved away from that line of, I guess, that line of their future, right, into this, right, that can redirect them into something more positive.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, because with this program, yes, we right. Our focus is pre-arrest or booking, right? Pre-arrest or booking, right? However, we also understand that unfortunately, with a lot of youth in New York City, you know, and especially with a lot of police officers, they tend to arrest first and ask questions later. Right? It's an arrest first and ask question later, right? So now, even in the event that a young person is arrested, we could still aim to connect and support that young person, as long as they're not like say like formally charged, right, with whatever charges that it may be, and that's where we do connect youth to our diversion partners, Center for Community Alternatives, who's seeking to support young people pre-petition so that they can be connected to their services in support of the PEDY program. So there is an opportunity for those young people, even if they're entering into the system, to potentially still be connected to one of our partners, right? Who is actively working in the family court system, for example, and working with pre-petition cases in order to get them connected to our services. So there is some opportunity for that. Now, you did say that there's young people who's even waiting to turn themselves in. Did you also say that too?
I did, yes.
Right. So now, in the event that there's youth who are waiting to turn themselves in, if I'm not mistaken, it seems as if there may already be pending charges for them if they're turning themselves in. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. So in the event that it's pending charges, then maybe those aren't young people that we can see immediately, because they would need to I guess go through that process, however it may. But then again, even if they turn themselves in, and that we could be an option for something that they could be diverted to, then maybe there's an opportunity for us to collaborate to see how we can support them as well. Because there are young people who are brought into the court, right, and then they're provided with options given the status of their case to be referred to alternative services. So there's still an opportunity pending the outcome of their case that they can potentially still be connected with us. So I think on both ends, there's some opportunities there that we could also speak further about on both ends.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. I also do want to just share that this is an opportunity that we're providing through our Pathways program, which is our victim assistance program. So for anyone who's been impacted by any level of gun violence, assault, right? Whether they're the victims or the perpetrators of gun violence, right? They can receive some victim compensation and some mental health and emotional support through our program that is being run at Restoration Plaza in Brooklyn. So yeah, I think there's a lot of avenues for us to support each other in this round. So looking forward to connecting with all of you. I would drop my email in the chat just to see if we can maybe just connect the conversation outside of this.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
And we keep talking on a certain initiative within CAVI, but CAVI is Kings Against Violence.
Okay.
But they do work with youth, and some of them, be involved, but I'm that really basically trying to eliminate like interpersonal violence. Right, so I'm sure that would be a great program.
Yes.
We would connect with, like Christopher Rose to connect with people.
Agreed. Because organizations like those, you know, sometimes I make the joke that we're like the new kids on the block, right? Sometimes I make that joke. But it's also with the understanding that we want to connect and integrate with services and programs that has been doing this for a long time in order to contribute and be a part of a web of services that young people can potentially connect with. So if we could do that in collaboration with CAVI or any other organization that's already reaching youth, then we want to be working in lockstep.
Any other questions?
Yes.
But if there's other folks on the chat.
No one spoke up. You can go.
So I heard you say Schlick, Dye, Brownsville, East Flatbush. Thank you. So I'm curious if there's models that are gonna be sort of like made of this also in like the Bronx and Queens, sort of like further down, just because I've heard before too that, you know, folks can be flexible, like if they live in Jamaica, Queens, like they choose New York. And I also know, right, that like coming from the Bronx, right, all the way down to like Brooklyn, can be, you know, a barrier for some folks. So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. Question. That's right, because when we initially got this funding from SAMHSA, it was the focus in Brooklyn, and that was largely just due to the amount that we received and the amount of the partners that we were able to get on board for this effort. But we do anticipate, if we are capable, and we will be capable of achieving the goals for this program, that we will be able to expand it out into other boroughs, right? Because this program is built on top, and I know that Raul already explained this, but this program is already built on top of our Building Resilience Youth Program, which is already all across the city, right? So we already have a lot of those organizations in place in order to expand it. So we want to prove how capable it is now so that we can expand it in the years, so they aim us to do just that. But in the meantime, at least until we get there, yeah, please, if you can come and connect with where we're currently offering it, then that would be great. But when we expand it, then I want to make it even better.
Great, thank you. So just a reminder, we're gonna send out the chat box.
Yeah.
So people who have put their contact information, want to reach out with you, everyone will kind of have access to that. Yes.
Is anybody from my town involved in this meeting? Because
They're not here today, however, we have a connection with them. So we can.
I know, I'm just reading their goals. We could also work with your kids and their family.
She has other things,
Yeah.
but so you could, maybe speak with her for a minute after the meeting.
I'm like, if we're here, and I was like, they work with kids. We might be able to look at, and again, it's not every kid in their program. Not every kid falls into the category of crisis, pre-crisis, or, at risk of incarceration. The problem is when you find one, everybody's always struggling. What do I do now? Because nobody wants to be the person working with the kid as you see him or them or her heading towards what you feel is like, man, is a horrible future. Because it doesn't mean like anybody goes to this, and we have people that we work with who've been through the system. They make incredible advocates because they've been through and they know exactly what's in store. But the thing is, man, is like not everybody, like I said, is suited for that. And not everybody comes out shining through the other end of the tunnel. Those are the super positive cases where they were gonna succeed and persevere anyway because of just their internal strength, the support that they have. But the thing is, so where do you influx that in someone's life if, it wasn't meant to be? And so it's always, that's what I said, we're that real thin bandwidth between not in trouble and in trouble. And usually it's a very short trip between that. So how do you get in there and pluck them out? Just as they're going through where they're like, "Oh, they're doing great. Man, now they're on that downward spiral. And pull the redirect them. And then the thing is it could be any bunch of reasons. Lack of support, compounded stressors, lack of education, lack of finances. Any of the reasons why someone who may not be involved in the game decides to start going to the game because they support the pillars that safety, finance, family, the things that they may not be getting somewhere else, they'll find in this group, but that group comes with risks, and the risks are violence to yourself, having to commit violence to somebody else, or possibly getting arrested for a myriad of things that eventually become commonplace in your existence. And we as human beings, man, develop a level of cognitive dissonance that we can easily separate. We're living in a society now where it's like, it's what it should be and what it is. And we have to be able to balance ourselves between those two worlds. And those things change from day to day. Our freedoms are given and taken away at the sign of a pen. So we're trying to be as adaptive as possible. It's not going to be easy, but it's a lot easier when we have a bunch of people working with us, when we have people understanding that we're here to help. And again, you may have a child that has in a family that needs our help. You just may have a group of parents that you need to, would benefit from a mental health, community talk or one of our programs. We do that as well. Like I said, there's no reason why anybody shouldn't be reaching out to me for something, whether it's providing training for your staff, people that you work with, or to help for referral with you. So.
Thank you.
Great.
I'm sorry, it's one question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. How shoes?
You're not supposed to be.
City programs can be really black and white for our families. So how is this program post-funded and how are you ensuring that the parents are still involved? Sometimes they're moved out of the picture, like a son or daughter is arrested. Mom wants to, they can't even do that. It's really, the child is on their own, they just gotta go through it. So how do you help through that process that doesn't feel like that?
Well, honestly, it's hard to guarantee those things. But I will start with the fact that we were based in the tree neighborhoods in our communities, our tree neighborhoods, which means they were specifically impacted because of their racial inequity through COVID. That is kind of like the benchmark that started the whole tree thing. So all of our communities are tree communities. So we are working where there's already a designated racial inequity. And so from the start, we're keying in on those neighborhoods. So that's one way we kind of make sure that we sway into that. Because we aren't a mandated program where they have to this, so we don't do like I was talking about where the criminal justice just takes a kid and now you have to deal with him and he's got to run his course. The idea is that again, if a kid is under 18, we need the parents to be involved in the process. They have to sign off on it. Most of our partners, the idea is that we work with entire families. We don't just work with the kids. You work with a kid, you put it back into an environment that started the whole thing, then it just kind of it'll be a while before he perpetuates and goes back to that. So we try to get that understanding. That's why I always mention FAC, because that's narrowly what they do. They go in there and they see what's going on, fix the wiring, build the communication. Now, not everybody does that specific stuff, but I know that that's kind of where our heart is when it comes to the work that we're doing. We're not like a drop-off type center, although honestly, some of the services are built like that. We've been working with, we've recently created a partnership with BCS, Local Community Services. Now, again, they're drop-in centers for kids that are 18 to 26. So any of the kids that show up there don't need parent consent. They're a drop-in center for kids. So at that point, those kids are kind of like partially kind of dealing with their own. But again, we still, I mean, any good service worker knows you got to work with the whole family if you want to be able to make some effective changes done, because you can't just work with the kid, beef him up, give him support, services, an understanding, and then expect him to be able to just connect with a parent who hasn't received some of that. And that is also really hard. And some of the partners are talking about that, about the lack of consent that happens back and forth for, even when we're talking about like the East Flatbush families. The worker that's here in East Flatbush that works with the empowerment, education empowerment campaign, her main problem is that she works with parents. And so a lot of times it's the other way around. She's got buy-in from the parents and is having trouble getting buy-in from the youth. So it's all kind of specific to the situation, but I guess that's the best way I can answer that particular question there. Yeah.
Points to that. Because you asked like how are, you write the city's black and white, how are we ensuring that,
Culturally confident.
yeah, that's culturally confident in the feedback and everything like that. We're doing that in a few ways, right? Well, one, we have our collaborative, we have, like the one that you attended the other day, right? One thing that we're aiming to do is get a youth advocate to be a part of the collaborative, so that they also get an opportunity to review all of our materials, help us with developing our outreach approaches, even ensuring that the materials that we're aiming to put in front of parents or youth as a whole is culturally competent, right? By hearing directly from the youth on how to adapt our program for the youth. There's ways in which that we've already done that even with a lot of our materials. So a lot of the things that you see or become available have already been vetted by a lot of our youth connections, right? Additionally, we also provide trainings for all of our community partners in order for them to be culturally competent, in order to best serve any of the youth that come through their doors, right? That not only happens by way of our Building Resilience and Youth program, by the foundational training that they're already receiving, but they're also going to be getting a chance to do that when we roll out our guide curriculum, right? So when we roll that out as well, then that would also be teaching our providers, teaching the providers that they also connect with, to also be able to adapt a lot of these practices in order to best serve you. So we at least do it two ways, by way of having folks involved to inform what we're doing. We are also aiming to develop a youth advisory board for the Partridge Early Diversion Program for those same purposes. So by being informed, by being involved, that's one way that we're doing it, but also providing trainings in order to educate people. Just that.
And to add on to that, all of the other trainings that I was talking about offering, the mental health trainings, we also do them in several different languages. We do them regardless. Immigration status doesn't matter. We have trained, immigrants, we have no problem with any of that kind of stuff. Again, New York City is still a sanctuary city, so we still understand that, our population speaks 180 different languages. So we know that we have to kind of it's weird. We were actually having a discussion about that earlier today at our Bureau Action Team meetings about cultural competency. And, we were all sitting there taking surveys about what are the top, whether it's cultural competency in how we're recruiting new people to work for us, or, doing it with the information that we're putting out or the trainings that we're doing. And so having people kind of what do you think is the most important? And so by doing that, it also helps gear that conversation that we're always still talking about, that's always in the background. Regardless of what the rest of the country is doing, we still understand that we have to be incredibly diverse, because that's the people that we deal with, and we can't leave anybody out.
Thank you.
No problem.
That's it.
All right, thank you again. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. So we're gonna transition now. I'd like to know if anyone has any program updates. And if you do, feel free, you can unmute and share your update with us. And also, if you want to share your screen, just let me know. I can make you a co-host. And you can feel free to drop anything in the chat as well that you want to share with people. So any program updates?
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh. Hi, I'll be quick. I'm Charlene Gordon from the New York City Department of Health, the Education and Community Partnership Unit, and we're under the Environmental Health Division. My announcement is next month, which is October 19th through October 25th, we will be celebrating National Lead Poisoning Prevention Week. We're going to have a number of in-person and virtual programs so that families could learn about lead poisoning. We'll be partnering with HPD, which is our sister agency, in providing these outreach events. So stay tuned, and I will definitely share the information, the schedule with a partnership, and encourage your families and yourself to visit and learn a little more about lead poisoning. So that's my announcement today, and thank you all.
Thank you, Charlene. Keisha, you'd like to go next?
Yes, hi. I wish I was there in person with you guys. Just wanted to share, Keisha Slovenia for Sesame Flyers. Just wanted to share we do have a haunted house coming up on Halloween Day, which is the 31st of October. The flyer is literally following soon. I will share it with you guys. And if anyone is interested in partnering with us, I am more than willing to accept. We are accepting candies donations if you guys are interested in doing so. I'm gonna put my information in the chat. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see Aziz next.
Yes, hello everyone again. Aziz here, School and Community Programs Director. I wanted to just share a couple of things, but before I do so, again, I'll just highlight the organization as what it is. We are a youth development organization focused on combating interpersonal violence by using the CMS model, which is the Cure Violence model. And so we're embedded in 4 high schools, Kings County Hospital, and we run a gamut of different community programs across New York City and state. But the 2 things that I wanted to highlight real quick is we've recently just launched our sexual violence program. And so we're currently in the needs assessment portion of our program. And so we're looking for different partners who can support us in supporting the larger community around educating and advocating around the conversation around gender-based violence. So if there are any organizations who do that level of work, you have any young people who need that level of support, please contact me. I've dropped my email in the chat. And then we also support 2 NYCHA sites through our Mayor's Action Plan. And so that's an opportunity, or that's a program that provides residents of both Wyckoff and Gowanus, which is around the Barclays Center, Atlantic Avenue region, support around thinking about what their public safety needs are. And so in terms of their public safety needs, we're not just talking about the physical, we're talking about the emotional, the education, the employment, and full access to all of the resources that New York City has to offer. Right. So if anyone is interested in providing any level of support to that community, please let me know. We're also looking for volunteers to support us in just engaging the residents in that community as well. And so I just wanted to highlight those 2. Again, my email is in the chat, so please reach out if you are interested in anything I just shared. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Vanessa, I see your hand up next.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you for being here. Just want to remind you, let me just introduce myself, Dr. Vanessa Burrell from the Early Intervention Program, New York City Health Department. I'm part of the Outreach and Staff Development Unit. I just want to remind you about the Early Intervention Program. We do have a parent presentation that is ongoing. It's virtual and it's for free. For families in your communities. It's a presentation that is offered. It's called It Takes a Village to Help Children Reach Their Full Potential. It is offered on once a week at 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Presentations are delivered by qualified personnel who are licensed or certified. And we have this presentation on Saturdays. Sometimes it's at 11 a.m. or 6 p.m. where families could come in and know about the early intervention program. For those who do not know about the early intervention program, it is a program that provides many types of therapeutic and educational services to eligible children, infants and toddlers between the ages of 0 to 3 who may have suspected or known developmental delays. So there are two parts of the program: the early intervention part, where we evaluate children to identify where these areas of deficits are in terms of their 5 functional areas. And then we have developmental monitoring, where we monitor children who may be at risk of developing a delay. So perhaps you may interact with families and they may have told you that your child may have had a low birth weight, maybe under 33 weeks, or low birth weight or gestational age under 33 weeks, or low birth weight under 4 pounds, and the families are concerned, or their child may not be developing typically for several reasons. It could be medical reasons, it could be social environmental reasons, such as homelessness, parents who never received prenatal care, perhaps for teen parents, or maybe a child may have a condition that is hereditary that puts them at risk for a delay. We will monitor these children, we will evaluate these children and to help them reach their full potential. So again, let families know we do not ask immigration questions. This program is very confidential. We cannot share any information about the child, even though the child's PCP may have recommended the child or referred the child into the program. Or even if you have referred the child into the program, we cannot share any information unless the family consent for us to do so. And lastly, the types of services that we provide are some just to mention: special instructions, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, social work, family training, service coordination, counseling, and many more. Okay, I did put my information in the chat, but I'm going to send out the flyer where parents could actually self-register for this. It takes a village to help children reach their full potential. We're waiting in the windows looking out for these families. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great evening.
You're welcome. Thank you. Karen, you're up next.
Yes, hi, good afternoon or good evening. Sorry, my computer has a life of its own. I put in the chat that Grant Associates has, and as a result of being awarded 2 additional HRA contracts, you may know that HRA transitioned out of the pathway model, and now they have what's called the PACE model. And as a result of that, we have a large number of employment opportunities available. So you can find those on our website. These are not entry level, but they're high. Well, there are some entry level. I shouldn't say that, but they're high paying jobs. So have a look.
Thank you. Any other program updates? Yes. Yes. Can you guys hear? What's your first name again? Brittany. Can you guys hear Brittany speaking? Okay, Brittany has an announcement.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany. I work at the Commission on Gender Equity. I use she, her pronouns. And I wanted to let everybody know that on December 3rd at 1 p.m., our office is going to be hosting, in partnership with Right to Be and the Mayor's Office to End Domestic and Gender-Based Violence, a bystander intervention to address gender-based street harassment training. And it's going to be online, and I can follow up with the flyer and information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other program updates?
Wait, I'm sorry. Is there a flyer for that, or is there a link or something that we can follow up with?
I'm in person, so I can send it, and then hopefully send it.
Yeah, send it to Cindy. She can put it in the chat.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or program updates? Okay. Yes.
In the chat. For everyone that has not filled out the attendance form, please fill it out here. We have put the link in the chat. Whoever that was joining later on, please fill out the attendance form.
Yes, that's very important. So we have 21 people on Zoom, which is great. And we have a good amount of people here. So yeah, we're hoping that you guys all have filled out the attendance. That would really help us a lot. And we're going to wrap things up as far as our time together. Just gonna go back to the presentation. Cindy, you can click to the next slide. So we are on social media. We have our Instagram and Facebook accounts. You may contact us at the East Flatbush Partnership. That's our handle. If you have any events that you'd like us to share there, you can send them to Cindy as well as we can share them in the newsletter. And again, the QR code, if you have not already made yourself present here for our event, you can do that. And our next meeting is going to be October 23rd. Are we here again?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to be here at My Time Inc. again, which is located on Parkside Avenue. And we would love to see you here in person. That would be great. And that's going to be October 23rd, again at 3 p.m. This is just a reminder of our catchment area. Our zip codes are 11203, 210, 212, and 226. And of course, if you do have a family that is located in, like, for example, Coney Island or Mill Basin, areas like that, where there are no partnerships, we would definitely still be able to try to help that family. And we are done as far as our presentation. I do want to open things up just in case any of you want to connect with each other. I will leave that open for just a few minutes. If you guys had any questions for anyone here in the audience or amongst each other, feel free. You can pose your questions. If you have questions for us at the partnership, let us know. But I'll give some time available for you guys to connect. But we are officially done with our meeting today. Thank you for attending.
Thank you for hosting.